you will remember Victoria Rose, a consultant plastic surgeon who usually works for Guy's and St Thomas's and Chelsea and Westminster hospitals in London, but who has, or last time we spoke to her, was keen and struggling to get back to Gaza, where she, well, I'll let her tell you because Victoria Rose joins me on the line now. You've just arrived, I think, in Khan Yunis in the south of Gaza, Victoria. What have you found compared to the last time you were there?
We arrived on Tuesday, and actually the drive in on the Saladin Road wasn't that different from August. But I think in August they had already flattened virtually every building in Khan Yunis. So really we were just driving through the same rubble again. But what is really noticeable is the number of people. So where we are is very near Al Mawasi, which is the humanitarian zone. And in August, that was absolutely rammed and you could not move. And now it's probably 50% occupied. And what happened during the last ceasefire is that everybody went back to the north to try and see what was left of their homes, which is worrying, really, because the offensive has started in the north today. So there's a huge number more targets than there were before the last ceasefire. But probably the biggest issue now is the state of the population. They haven't had any food for 75 days, and it's visible. The children are really cachectic. My colleague is worried about the hair of his 2-year-old daughter falling out. They really are not in good condition.
And what sort of cases are you working on in the hospital itself? What sort of injuries and conditions are we dealing with?
So I started today with 3 children who've been burnt in bomb blasts, and then we've had an adult who has over 50% burns from another bomb blast, lots of shrapnel injuries, a young girl who's got an open pelvic fracture. She was hit by a car as she was running away from a blast. And she's got quite a devastating injury to her right lower leg, which one of my colleagues has had to repair the major artery to her leg. And we've just been trying to reconstruct the skin over the top of it. So it's been quite a packed morning already. We're getting through a huge number of cases. The staff are really pleased that we're here. It's the same team that we worked with in August, so lots of smiles when we turned up yesterday, and we're really cracking through it, but there's a lot to do.
Could you briefly contrast the working conditions there with the working conditions you're used to at home?
Sorry, there's a bit of gunfire in the background now. Well, yes, I don't have gunfire and bombs going off in London. But I mean, mainly it's lack of supplies. I mean, we did a burn on a 6-month-old this morning, and in the UK, we would have dressed that burn with a very specialist dressing called BioBrain, which means that you can basically leave it on and it heals the burn. And then once the burn is healed, it falls off by itself. So you don't have to put the child through multiple dressing changes. We don't have any of that here. So we're down to, basic gauze and bandaging, which means I'm going to have to change that child's dressing every other day until it heals. So it's that type of problem that we've got. We really have run out, or we've run out of blades. I managed to buy 2 boxes. This is blades for knives for our scalpels. They told me that they'd run out, so I bought 2 boxes. So we've got 200 now. But looking at, we're here for 3 to 4 weeks, so I think we're going to get through all of those and need some more.
How hard was it to get in this time, in terms of the paperwork and the
Relatively easy. So we submitted the same paperwork as last time, and it seemed to work okay. The difference this time is they've closed the Kerem Shalom crossing, so we had to drive to Kisafim, which is sort of halfway down Gaza on the Israeli side, and that's not really a proper crossing. It's an emergency crossing that they've opened. And so there was quite a wait there for the UN vehicles to get into the compound on the Israeli side. We were transferred in 7 armoured vehicles, and we had a bit of a wait there. But the biggest thing that's noticeable is the number of people that are allowed in. We were, I think, 44, and only 7 of us got granted permission to travel. So it's very small numbers. And speaking to the UN and the WHO, it's about 50% of everyone that applies that's getting in at the moment.
I hope this isn't a silly question, but it's another comparison, if you don't mind. In terms of workload as opposed to working conditions, the speed and the volume of work that you have to do compared to what it would be like in London.
Well, it's a totally different setup because we don't anaesthetize the patients in the same way. A lot of what we're doing is done under sort of ketamine and sedation. So a lot of the turnaround time, our anaesthetists are very, precision driven in the UK, and the patients are put to sleep in an anteroom to the main operating theatre, and they're often intubated or some form of airway is put in, and then they're given an intravenous anesthetic or an inhalation anesthetic, and then they're taken into the operating room and their vital signs are monitored. We attach them to various monitors to make sure that we know how deep they are under anesthetic. We're monitoring their blood pressure, their heart rate, all of that. Most of them will be catheterized. They'll have an art line in. None of that happens here. They're sedated. Very occasionally, an airway will be put in if we're doing something that might take a long time. So the turnaround is huge. There's not much monitoring of the patients while they're under sedation. There's the rudimentary sort of blood pressure and heart rate, but that would be it. A lot of the time, we don't have an anaesthetist. We have an anaesthetic nurse specialist. So we're able to put more people to sleep. So more theatres are running. So it's a very different setup, and everybody seems to sort of have a similar role. So all of my theatre staff will assist me and, help put dressings on, clean wounds. They'll do a bit of stitching. I sort of tell them what to do, and they'll crack on, which means that we move at a much faster pace.
You were very sanguine a moment ago about the gunfire in the background, but for people who haven't heard you on this board talking to me before, why do you do it?
It sounds really bizarre, but it's quite addictive when you come here and you see what a huge difference you can make just by turning up and standing with your medical colleagues. But the other thing really for me is there is no plastic surgery in Gaza at the moment. There are no trained Gazan plastic surgeons left here. So there's nobody that's really capable of treating the injuries that they're seeing. And I think, as I explained to you last time, all these types of injuries are very much bread and butter plastics trauma. So, again, people have been waiting for us to come in. And this time I've come in with 2 other plastic surgeons. So we've a huge workload that's built up because people know that we're here. And I think it's very difficult when you know that you've got these skills and you can make a difference to sit at home and do nothing and watch it or not watch it on the news. It's hard not to get involved.
Okay. Some people don't find it that hard not to get involved. So thank you for what you're doing. And final question, what happens to your patients if you're not there?
Well, a lot of them are sort of just looked after from a basic medical point of view. So their wounds are dressed, kept as clean as they can. And it's a sort of a hope situation that they'll make some recovery, or if not, they'll go for amputations. And that's really what happens. A lot of the burns, that don't heal will end up with really deforming contractures that will need surgery later in life. It's if they survive, it's great. If they don't, it pushes the problem further into the future, really.
Victoria Rose, thank you. As always happens when you come on this programme, some of your former patients in London are getting in touch to tell me how wonderful you are. But I think thanks, John. But I think we've already established that. And take care. I think you've stepped out of theatre, have you, to talk to us?
I have, yes, I have. I need to go back.
Let me detain you no longer, for goodness sake. Victoria, thank you, and do take care. Victoria.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Consultant plastic surgeon, as you heard, normally at Guy's and St Thomas's or indeed Chelsea and Westminster. Westminster Hospital, currently at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in South Gaza, and the gunfire being a particularly pertinent moment in that interview because, according to witnesses, it was yesterday that Khan Yunis reported airstrikes on the city from early morning, with many bodies being taken to the morgue in the hospital where Victoria is now working, and according to eyewitness reports, some bodies arriving in pieces. Oh, anyone else feeling a little bit inadequate about the shift that you're putting in today? And it's kind of, oh, great, yeah. What did you do today? What an amazing woman. What an incredible thing it is that she does.